let's jump right into this explainer and explore one of the last true wildernesses left on Earth. We are heading way down to the far south of South America, to a majestic place where nature and nature alone makes the rules. Welcome to Patagonia. It's a land of absolute extremes. We're talking howling winds, towering peaks, and these just vast, empty plains. Today, we're going to unpack the really complex history of this region. We'll look at the delicate balance of its wildlife, the heavy toll of industrial expansion, and then actually one of the most inspiring environmental comebacks in human history. So you really have to ask yourself, how do you survive in a land where fire and ice have literally been battling it out for millions of years? Because millions of years ago, this whole region was just an elemental battleground. You had volcanoes erupting from the absolute depths of the Earth, and these immense tectonic collisions that forcefully thrust the magnificent Andes Mountains right up into the sky. And then came the ice ages. Giant rivers of ice covered the land completely. They aggressively carved out the deep valleys, the massive lakes, and those jagged fjords we see today. Honestly, every single rock and shoreline carries the scars of this ancient battle. It is a hostile, storm-battered environment, but it's one that forged some of the most resilient forms of life on the planet. Now, what's truly fascinating is how the massive Perito Moreno Glacier completely defies global trends. While standard glaciers all over the world are rapidly shrinking and melting because of climate change, Perito Moreno is this massive anomaly. It is actively advancing. Covering a staggering 250 square kilometers and reaching depths of 170 meters, this colossal wall of blue ice just keeps growing. It actually pushes forward to form a natural dam that periodically splits Lake Argentina right in two. And as that water pressure builds up, the glacier's edges frequently shatter, collapsing into the freezing waters below with this deafening sound that echoes like thunder. It's just a spectacular reminder of nature's raw, untamed power. But, this incredible resilience wasn't just limited to nature. It absolutely extends to the human masters of this landscape. Humans first arrived here between 14,000 and 10,000 years ago, and they adapted brilliantly to the harsh terrain. You had the Alacanican people who mastered the open steppes, tracking guanaco herds with these lasso-like tools called bolas. Meanwhile, the Coisker and Yagan people became expert navigators, somehow surviving those freezing labyrinth-like fjords by canoe. But tragically, this balance was shattered. The challenging environment kept European colonizers at bay at first, but infectious diseases eventually began to decimate these indigenous populations. Then, jumping to the 1870s, Argentina launched the Conquest of the Desert, which was a devastating military campaign designed to clear indigenous inhabitants from their ancestral lands. Today, only a handful of descendants remain, including a community of about 500 Coisker living in really isolated settlements like Porto Eden. Now, because of that extreme isolation we talked about, Patagonia is home to some incredibly unique endemic species, meaning they aren't found anywhere else on Earth. Up in the mountains, you've got the elusive Andean cat and the mountain viscacha. Out on the harsh plains and steppes, you'll find the lesser rhea, which is this giant flightless bird built purely for speed, and the Patagonian mara. Now in the forests and open spaces, there's the huemul deer, Patagonian foxes, and the incredible pudu deer. The pudu is actually the world's smallest endemic deer. It stands just 16 inches high. They are so timid and so highly strung that a sudden fright can literally cause them to die of a heart attack. Add to that the majestic Andean condor gliding on thermal winds with a massive 3-meter wingspan, and you've got an ecosystem that's just as fragile as it is fascinating. But, as you might guess, this delicate balance had a breaking point. For thousands of years, nature dictated the pace of life here. Over the last century, however, human intervention pushed Patagonia right to the absolute brink. It really serves as a powerful global warning sign of just how rapidly a pristine environment can unravel. We have to objectively look at how colonization, the introduction of massive sheep farming operations, and modern industrialization rapidly degraded this landscape. Sheep farming in particular basically stripped the native grasslands bare, causing severe habitat fragmentation. Fences cut off ancient migration routes for native animals like the guanaco and the rhea. And meanwhile, down along the coast, a booming commercial fishing industry, unregulated oil exploration, and growing human settlements just started taking a severe toll on the marine ecosystem. The real turning point here is captured by a frankly staggering statistic from a 1997 World Bank report: 800,000 metric tons. That number represents the amount of hake, which is the region's most important commercial fish species, that was captured in just one single year. To put that into perspective, the scientifically recommended total allowable catch, just to ensure the species could reproduce and survive, was only 395,000 metric tons. So the fishing industry was extracting more than double what the biological capacity of the ocean could actually handle. The impact was immediate and devastating. The effort required to catch fish skyrocketed, while the average size of the fish being caught dropped dramatically. It was a terrifying signal that the marine environment was being completely depleted. And as if that overfishing wasn't enough, consider this next really heartbreaking metric: 40,000. The Global Environment Facility's Coastal Management Project for Patagonia estimated that 40,000 penguins were being killed every single year due to coastal oil pollution. Oil spills from commercial tankers and cargo ships posed a massive lethal threat to the marine biodiversity of the Patagonian shelf. When you combine that toxic ship-based pollution with localized land-based pollution from coastal industries, you start to realize just how perilously close this ancient marine ecosystem was to total collapse. But thankfully, the story doesn't end there. In fact, this is where things get truly inspiring. A massive rewilding comeback changed everything, and it was driven by an incredibly simple yet totally powerful philosophy: purchase, restore, donate. This model was pioneered by Douglas Tompkins. He's the founder of The North Face, and his wife Christine McDivitt Tompkins, the former CEO of Patagonia. Over nearly 3 decades, they used their personal wealth to purchase over 1 million acres of severely degraded rangeland in Patagonia. And their goal wasn't to develop it. It was solely to restore it. They aggressively removed livestock, tore down hundreds of miles of fencing, and painstakingly restored the native habitats. And then, in 2018, they did something unbelievable. They executed the most significant private land donation in history, gifting it all right back to the country of Chile. That massive private donation catalyzed an awe-inspiring national vision known as the Route of Parks. We're talking about a mind-boggling 28 million acre conservation corridor that links 17 different national parks, stretching all the way from Portimont right down to Cape Horn. And the results? Honestly, they're nothing short of miraculous. Top predators like Patagonian pumas have bounced back to some of the highest population densities recorded anywhere on Earth. The critically endangered huemul deer, a species that had dwindled to fewer than 1,500 individuals, now has a dedicated national corridor to roam and breed freely. Even Darwin's rheas and the Andean condors are returning in huge numbers. And this resurgence has entirely revitalized the local economy through sustainable ecotourism, practically proving that conservation and human prosperity can actually go hand in hand. So we'll end on this thought-provoking note. Patagonia is absolute proof that environmental destruction doesn't have to be a one-way street. By removing the barriers we've built, giving the land actual space to breathe, and combining bold government policy with visionary action, we really can reverse the damage. So I leave you with this question to take away. If the harshest, most unforgiving environment on Earth can be given a second chance to heal and thrive once more, what other wild spaces globally can we bring back from the brink? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Let's keep learning and let's keep protecting our world.